Welcome back. Earlier on, we had a conversation with Mr. Tokyo Sexwale about a campaign that his foundation, the 41/78 Foundation, is currently undergoing in terms of encouraging South Africans to remember that at some point in the country, there were prisoners who didn't have a choice, political prisoners, and had to be locked down because of the apartheid system. But let's bring him back. That conversation was interrupted because the line got cut off. Dr. Sexwale, welcome once again. I started off earlier by asking you how ironic it was that this fight against COVID-19 is about saving lives and preventing deaths, and it comes at a time when we're marking the killing of Chris Hani on the 10th of April, and that massacre, that soccer massacre, on the Ellis Park massacre on the 11th of April. Quite ironic, isn't it?
Well, it is ironic, and I must apologize for the cut last time. The load shedding, I think, was on from my side. There was a mistake in the connection. My apologies there. Yes, indeed, it's ironic, but that's the reality of life, that we are in this lockdown situation during the celebration or the commemoration or remembrance of the sad days we are referring to. Biggest of them for us, as we know, was Chris Hani. Because Ellis Park was a terrible accident, not a massacre. But with Chris Hani, it was an assassination. It was murder. And we remember Chris as a leader of our people. We remember him for what he had done. But also, as we are isolated here, Chris is one of the many thousands of South Africans who were isolated as well, from out of the country for thousands of days, from 1990, from 1960 when the ANC was banned, to 1990. We're virtually out of South Africa. We're quarantined, away from home. The experience that we wanted to bring here today, Mwanesu, is the one of political imprisonment, or imprisonment in general, but focusing particularly on political imprisonment. It's a form of isolation. It is not just a shutdown, it's a lockup. And you can imagine how many days Nelson Mandela had to spend of the 27 years, close to 10,000 days. I got a discount. My time in prison was about 5,400 and something days. Now, for South Africans going through what they are going through today, they should understand that there are certain things that you do, there are certain things that you avoid when you are in a kind of situation that we are in. I refer to certain rules. Rule number one, you must understand the circumstances under which you're operating. The circumstances of a lockdown, the circumstances like you were in jail of a lockup. All of us are sort of in prison today. You must come to terms with that and know that there are certain rules, there are certain regulations. In this situation, we are operating under the law of disaster. The president has decided that the country should be under lockdown. We agree with him. For those people who thought that this may end after 21 days, unfortunately, the truth is that this fight is going to take quite some time. Although it is said we're unhappy with the extension because people want to be free, we accept it is a reality. So when we are in a situation like this, you understand your environment and come to terms with it.
Because our conversation was cut off earlier, we now have time constraints. I want to ask you quickly. We were talking earlier on the show with the CEO of the South African Chamber of Commerce, Alan Mokogi. They're making a call to the president to relax the regulations for fast food providers, and to say that because we're saying food must be accessible to people, this sector, the restrictions must be relaxed for them in terms of the lockdown. Does this convey a message that there are certain sectors who are not necessarily happy with the lockdown extension, perhaps?
nobody will be happy with any lockdown in any part of the world. But I think one can understand that because there is an exclusion of or an allowance of the fact that the essential industries include food. The fast food providers, your Nando's, your KFCs, they have a point insofar as that is concerned. So therefore, I'm sure it's something that the government may want to look at. Because when we're locked down, Uber can deliver from the Nando's types, from the KFCs, from the chicken lickens. So it's something that can be considered, subject to the fact that it should not violate any of the provisions of audio. So everything is looked at from time to time. I don't think that is a train smash as long as food is being provided. I'm sure there must be some reason why this was excluded, but I think it's a reasonable request.
We really thank you for your time. Tokyo Sexwale is a trustee at the Liliies Leaf Foundation in Rivonia, but unfortunately we have to end this conversation there. Thank you so much for watching. Simpiwe is up next.